I don't want to call you by the name that I call you by, but you're from Bishop College Church, right? Good evening. Good evening. Minister Vanessa. I wanted to get it right. Minister Vanessa. And to the household of Judah of Faith. Sorry, Judah House of Prayer. Sorry. Good evening. I am pleased to be here on your Women Revivals Night. And when I was asked to speak, I said, but we have to go away tomorrow morning. How this will work. But God said, regardless of what you have to do, you better do my work first, and then anything else will happen. So I got it in the form of a question. Is there a penalty for condoning wrong things? Of course, there is a penalty. Absolutely, yes, there is a penalty. And with the penalty, what happens with the penalty? We could lose our life. We could lose our blessing. We could lose everything that God gave us in the twinkling of an eye. But, you know, what it is to condone. The dictionary says it's to accept and allow a behavior that is considered morally wrong or offensive. So, if we condone something, it means that we allow it, we accept it, we approve it, and we say to ourselves, well, it ain't so bad, I could live with it. And we have another form of condoning. Everything going haywire, everything going mad, and we stay silent. We're very silent. Because, why be silent? Because we don't want to be bothered, we don't want to get involved. It's not our business, it's not my problem. But when we're talking about a penalty, you have to consider, where do you stand when you condone? Sometimes condoning doesn't only affect you, it affects your family. There are times when you condone and you get away scotch-free, and guess what? All the people who encourage you to condone, they're gone. And you want to say you're serving God, but you're not looking out for your brother, man. We have condoning in the church, in the house of God. Some of us will condone the wrong things because we think we are the leader's best friend, that we serving the mother, that the Spirit of God will speak to you. But hear what? You want to believe what the members tell you because you want to be their friend. So, Spirit of God talking to you, but because the members tell you this is what you have to do, you go along with them. Forgetting that God gave you a charge to keep. He didn't give the members the charge alone. He gave you the charge to keep. We know that some churches have a uniform, and they say that first Sunday we wear white, and some wear it and some don't. And what the leader say? It's all right. It is not all right. It is not. If God gave a decree to the people who are supposed to be charged over you, you're supposed to follow. Don't decide that the leader cannot tell me what to do. Don't let it door hit you on your way out. Because when you do those things, the leader has to pay for it. Because that God gave him the charge, or the woman the charge to keep. And when the charge is not kept, there is a penalty. Your family going haywire, the church are working good, and all you're saying, I don't know what happened. Check yourself. What did you condone? What did you condone? We have condoning in the home, in your personal house. Children get in trouble, and because we are in a society where we cannot correct our children, we allow them to get away with stuff. I remember my daughter was 3 years old, and we have something called temper tantrum, right? And with a temper tantrum, what the children does, they disobey you and they do whatever they want and they throw down themselves. Now if Pastor Sherwin did encourage the temper tantrum, all now so I can't go up prison enough because the temper tantrum does lead to other things. And when your children out of control, nothing look bad like that. Because you want to serve God, but you want your children to walk a certain way. So when they're young and they're 3 years old and they're 4 years old, fix it. Fix it. Do not let them rule you. Do not condone the wrongdoing, because you will pay for it when they grow up. We have condoning in the workplace. Some people believe that when they go to work, all they got to work to do is to earn a daily bread. All right, fine. But then if you're earning a daily bread, do that. But some of us, we get to the point where we start to disrespect our managers, disrespect who is in authority over us. Hear what? We are supposed to abide by the laws of the land, and we are supposed to abide by the laws of our workplace. So when you encourage other workers to be disrespectful to your manager, remember, you say you're serving God. So what you condone is that, all right, girl, hear what? You see, she don't worry, she had nothing, What did you just do? But we serving God. How could we be serving God and be encouraging the wrong thing? Because we want people to like us. But is it worth it? Is it worth it? You know, when you think about it, condoning is only encourage disrespect in the long run. When we look at some condoners, I call them condoners, because they condone something. The first set I want to look at is Sarah and Hagar. Now, when you want something desperately, you will do anything to get it. Even if it means compromising your marriage and your husband.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, we may say, well, you know, that was the culture at the time. Time changed, God didn't change. Marriage is marriage. And if it is that we are desperate, remember, Sarah couldn't have any children. And because of that, she allowed her slave to go into her husband. We know what that means, right? Because she wanted an heir to the throne, right? So hear what? In order for Hagar to conceive, she had to do it once, she had to do it twice, she had to do it 3 times. We don't know how much time she did it. So Sarah encouraged adultery in her house. And hear what? The husband just as guilty because he went along with it. Man again.
He was forced. He was forced. He was forced.
We're talking about condoning it. I ain't saying nothing bad. The husband condoned it. So that when things get out of hand and Sarah don't want Hagar anymore in her place, she didn't remember what she just condoned. She forget. She forget. And now when Ishmael is growing up and she realized that she have Isaac, now she wants her out. But remember, you sent me to go with your husband. And the husband, what did he do? He agreed to let Hagar go. Now tell me, you condone the adultery, you condone when water gets hot for you, you say, all right, let her go. Without thinking, if Sarah did only wait on God and let God do what he was supposed to do, we would not have so much controversy in the world today. Because we know that Ishmael and Isaac is why we have all this trouble in the land.
Yes.
Let's look at another condoner. We're talking about King Solomon. Man after God's own heart. He loved God all. He loved God all. But guess what? He had one weakness. 700 wives, 300 concubines. Now tell me, God gave him everything that he wanted. Because all he asked God for was an understanding heart so that he can rule his people. But Solomon, because of his wives, decided to worship idols. He didn't actually worship the idols, you know. He built the altar for the wives and them to worship their idols. Eventually, he condoned it. Whether or not he was part of it, or he just built it and walked away, he condoned it because God warned Solomon not to be with those strange wives. The Amorites, the Edomites, the Hittites. All these ice people, no good. And God warned him. He warned him, but yet still, he figured, well, you know what? God ain't know what he's saying. But when it came down to it, what happened? Solomon lost everything. He lost everything. So, Sarah condoned adultery. Solomon condoned idolatry. And the next one I want to look at, because sometimes when you condone, you always feel like you will walk away free, and sometimes you do. Let's look at Aaron. Aaron was a high priest, right? He's supposed to be Moses' right hand. Moses has to do what he has to do for God, so he's going up into the mountain. Aaron is left with the people. And what happens? They find that he's taking too long to come back. They're not checking how long is 40 days. They just find that Moses staying too long. They tell Aaron, let us build a god of gold. And Aaron is a people pleaser. He say, all right. And hear what? He did it, you know. But what I learned today is that Aaron wasn't the first person that was asked to build the God. His nephew was asked. And his nephew said, absolutely not, I will not defy my God. And what did they do? They killed him. Aaron saw what happened. And he, like a chicken, he gets scared. Because he believed that if they come to him and he say no, he will face the same death. Some people say Aaron was trying to be nice and trying to stall them. No, Aaron encouraged the wrong thing. Because what did he tell them? To go and get the jewelry from your wives and your children and bring it to put into the fire to make the golden calf. Now why would he do that? Aaron is supposed to be Moses' right hand. He's supposed to have his back. And he allowed the people to rule him. And mind you, the whole thing about it is they build the calf, Aaron built the altar, and on top of that, they had a nice rivalry session. They had bacchanal. They had it nice. They do all kind of things. All kind of things. And here comes Moses coming down the mountain. Thought that he coming to meet a people rejoicing. What were they rejoicing about? Nothing what Moses thought about. Moses ended up breaking the tablets that he brought because he was bringing something for the children of Israel. And guess what? He couldn't give it, he'd drop it and he'd break it. But here is the penalty. Moses, because he knew who God is, because while he was up there, God spoke to him, you know. God spoke to him, but because he know Aaron is down there, he's pretty sure that things can't get out of hand. Careful who you leave in charge. And as they're coming down the mountain, and Moses realized what's going on. What did Moses do? He take the same golden calf, burn it in the fire, ground it up like powder, and he put it in water. And he make everybody drink.
Yes.
Everybody drink. Now you imagine you drinking gold dust in water, you're bound to dead. And if that wasn't enough, Moses make all the Levites, because he asked, who is going to stand with me? And all the Levites come on his side. And he told them, take a sword in your side and go to every single camp and kill your brother, your neighbor. Now tell me, all of that because one man could not hold his ground and say, absolutely not, I will not defy my God. Now why? Why? And mind you, Aaron the high priest, nothing happened to him. Because he still continued Moses to be Moses' high priest. So when you're condoning, you gotta be careful. Because you may not feel the backlash. But the people who are supposed to be watching over, they are the ones that are going to feel the backlash. We have some other kind of condoners. We have the people pleasers. Oh yes. I want to do so and so and so, but I know it in my heart I shouldn't do it. But because I don't want to upset you, I will say yes and hope God sanction it. And when God does sanction it and I feel the pinch, all I can say, I should have listened to what God says. And the person who gave you the encouragement, they go and listen up, and they leave you in the hot waters. Be careful how you try to keep friendship. Friendship must be based on truth, trust, and God. If the friendship cannot have God in it, it ain't good. If the friendship requires me to do something that is not of God, that cannot be a friendship. If you're living in the same house with somebody and they encourage you to do the wrong thing, you have a mind of your own. Take responsibility for your actions. I want to say that, you know, when we condone, there is penalties, there is backlash, and there is the Almighty God who's watching. He's watching because He gave each and every one of us a charge to keep. And when we don't exercise that charge, we have a price to pay, a penalty to pay for it. My sister here went into the whole process of talking about Samuel and how he was chosen to go into the high priest, to go and be a part of the temple. When we look at Samuel's mother, Hannah, if somebody really wants something, they must think about how Hannah went about it. She grieved within her heart. She cried. People made fun of her, but she took it to the Lord in prayer. She didn't try to go with somebody else's husband to try to get the baby, because she probably think the husband must have what it takes. She didn't do that. She didn't try a Sarah way. She prayed and she prayed because she knew that God must bless her. And when He did bless her, she promised the child unto God. Sometimes when we have children, we don't know what we're setting them up for. We promise God a million things because we want the child. And when the child comes, some of us run and hide. Not my child. But you promised God. So Hannah, she followed what she said she was going to do. She was going to give him to God. And when we look at how Samuel had to deliver a message, not everybody could hear the voice of God. You see, when we think about God speaking, right? Everybody would agree that when we pray, we speaking to God, right? And when we pray and we ask God for something and God responds, we have a conversation with God. But when we tell people that God spoke to us, people start to watch us sideways. God will speak to you? Who is you? But the voice of God doesn't respect anybody in particular. He speaks to whomever He will, when He will, because He is God all by Himself. You see, what we don't realize is that praying is a conversation with God. And the key to hearing God's voice is the willingness to tune into God's voice. Yes. Sometimes we hear it, but we are tuning. We're listening, but we already hear it. Because Samuel heard the voice, but because he was not mature enough to know it was the voice of God, he went to Eli. Now, if Eli was a wicked man, he would have spoiled Samuel from day one. He would have never heard another voice again. So we have to say that Eli was a good man. It is hard because we know sometimes when children are young and they bring messages to us that we don't like, we shut them up and close their ears, right? They can't hear nothing and they can't speak nothing. But the message, they said it was going to what? Tingle both ears. Tingle. So it means that whatever God was about to tell Samuel, to tell Eli, it must have been about destruction or total embarrassment. And you know, when you think about it, the message that Eli's house is going to be wiped out. How on earth a little child is going to be telling an elder something of the kind? Ain't that something? We got to be careful when we have young children who have a little sight and a little hearing. You see, what happened in Israel, it wasn't new. Israel was always going through something. But just below the surface of what was going on, we had an open sore in the temple. And that open sore needed to be cut out because that sore was not just there, it was festering and it had maggots in it. You know when you have maggots in a sore, what has happened? It's scratching here, it's in here, you see something push out his head. It ain't good at all. But you're so frightened, you don't want to tell nobody that the sore is just not a sore, it has maggots in it because you're ashamed. But you have to cut it out because if you don't cut out that, it gonna come up, it gonna go sideways, and then eventually you will be destroyed totally. So that is what Eli's sons, that is what they created the temple of God. They created a sword, and it wasn't just a sword, the sword had maggots in it. The Bible said that they were bad boys. And it says that they were the sons of Belial. What is the meaning of Belial? It says it's a wicked person, lawless, rebellious, and full of corruption. So it means that Eli's sons were crooks, bad boys, and they had no regard for the Lord. They were full of lust, they were ungodly, they were selfish, and they were disrespectful to the things of God. And guess what? Eli knew what was going on, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Eli's sons, they stole from the people who they should have been ministering to. They stole the meat, the sacrifice. When I did some research, it says in Leviticus 7:30-34 that the priest was supposed to eat the breast and the upper thigh of the animal. Eli's sons was taking everything and not just asking for it. They were forcefully taking it from the people that were coming to the temple. And what did Eli's sons also do? They were sleeping with the women in the temple. The women that are supposed to be cleaning the church and doing everything, and Eli's sons are sleeping with them. And guess what? One of Eli's sons was married, and he is just as guilty. So Eli not just only condoning that his sons were taking advantage of the children of Israel, he was also condoning adultery. And we know back then, adultery is, the penalty is they stone you to death. Did that happen to Eli's sons? Absolutely not. So, just imagine, Eli, a judge, a high priest, and he was a man that, God promised that his generation would be the high priest. And what happened? He failed in his role as a father. You see, we don't understand that the critical role of a father is to discipline their children. And Eli's failure was magnified because of his position of responsibility. He and his sons were supposed to control the worship life of Israel. And the thing about it is, Samuel was not the first warning. A man of God went to Eli earlier on and warned him of what his sons were doing. And Eli did not listen. You see, when God is about to destroy, he doesn't just destroy, he always sends a warning. Amen. Sometimes he sends a warning once, twice, 3 times, as we who don't listen. Because sometimes we think that we could dictate to God how, when, and why. You see, what we have to understand, there is a great danger for anyone who is in a position of authority in the church. You see, sometimes people use that authority for their own power and for their own benefit. It is dangerous for those who have that unspoken power, that informal authority in the congregation, because they have been here for a long time. So they have a little bit of maturity, they have a little bit of wisdom. And they use that to control God's people. Not for God's doing, but for their own doing. We have a function in the church, and everybody's supposed to do something. But because I've been here the longest, I am doing nothing. You and you will do everything. But the mother knows about it, and she says nothing. Nothing. I will not condone wrongdoing in the house of God. So that when you don't like condoning, people will not like you. But I fear no foe with thee at hands to bless. God is my keeper, and God watches me from here to there and everywhere, so that I will not be condoning what God does not want. Some of us, we need to watch our motives, because some of us, our motives is not in alignment with God's will. We have a hidden agenda because we want something. We don't want something from God, we want something from the mother or the father. But here what? The mother and the father can't give you nothing until God says so. And if God didn't say it, I will not condone you to ask for it. Because sometimes we want the things that look good, seem good, but God said no. And we are hearing that, but because we figure we have an arm around somebody, we squeeze them till we get it. Don't condone it. Run them. If we would only stand up for Jesus and said, absolutely not, this place will be a better place. You know, Eli tried to warn his sons. And this is what he told them in chapter 2, verse 25. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? In other words, who shall make intercession for him? So he's telling his sons, if you do something wrong, you know, we can fix it. But when you sin against God, who is going to intercede for you? You see, if they were just doing little things, God may not have been so harsh with them. But they were taking advantage of God's people. They were undermining God's worship. And of course, they were guilty of blasphemy. Yes. Because, you know, Eli failed to restrain his sons. You know, even though God promised him that he would be in the house forever, that was to be short-lived. Because his failure was too great. In fact, Eli and his son's failure is just another example of the continuing failure of the family lines that we fail to maintain throughout our generations. You see, they were not just oppressing those under them, they were sinning directly against the worship of Israel. When we look at chapter 2 and verse 17, it says, wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for they treated the offerings of the Lord with contempt, another form of blasphemy. What was the end result? Because God did not want a sin sacrifice or an offering from Eli for the wrong that the children did. So penalty 1. Both sons died on the same day. And why they died on the same day? Sometimes children can be really foolish. The Ark of the Covenant is their prized possession. God gave that to them. And because they were so full of themselves, they took the Ark of the Covenant to war. Now tell me, you're taking God's glory to war. If you wanted God's glory in the war, you should have prayed with it where it was supposed to be. And what happened? They both were killed on the same day, and the Philistines take away the ark from them. Penalty number 2. Eli heard the news, his sons are dead, but what really killed him, as you said, when he realized the ark was no more. Let's imagine, they're eating all the food, they're getting fat, and on top of that, they're taking the Ark of the Covenant to war. Because Eli knew the value of the Ark of the Covenant. He didn't really care about his sons anymore because he lost control of them. But he still thought that he had control of the Ark. And when it is gone, the shock of it make him fall backwards and break his neck. Penalty number 3. The pregnant wife. She heard the news. She went into labor. She had a child. She called the child Ichabod. And the meaning of that name is the glory has departed. So the glory of God, which is supposed to be the Shekinah glory, is gone. The Shekinah glory is the light that shines from inside of the ark, flowing through 3 layers of skin. The goat skin, the beaver skin, and the badger skin. So you know how bright that light is to shine through all of that? And she realized it's gone. It's gone, 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 gone. How could a high priest like Eli miss the mark? How could he? He made some crucial errors. He had the wrong emphasis because he was emphasizing his teaching on the congregation and his colleagues and not on his children. He addressed his sons, but he did nothing to correct them. He saw it, he ignored it, he pretended that it would go away. You see, the result of Eli putting his head in the sand caused him not to hear from God. Have you ever put your head in the sand for your children or for a situation? We do it because we want to protect them. And hear what? Not good. Because we are condoning what they are doing. And when we condone, there is a price to pay. Eli's next critical error: wrong expectations. Eli thought that his sons would get it because they are in the house of God. The house of God is not only for righteous people. It is for people who have issues. It is a hospital. So sometimes we don't get it. Because we're in the house of God, we assume that everything is supposed to be okay. We feel that everybody that comes to church is supposed to know better. And if they know better, they're supposed to do better. But when you don't know better, how could you do better? Another crucial error: wrong example. Eli failed to teach his children what he taught at the temple. He tuned out God so much so that when he tried to talk to his children, they tuned him out too. Eli had the wrong entanglement. He got so caught up in being a high priest that he was blinded of his failure of not taking care of his son's issues. You see, there is an order of things that we need to keep in mind. We must always have God first. Absolutely God first. Family second. Ministry third. Deal with God on a daily basis. Take care of your family. Do God's work.
Hallelujah.
Simple as that. If you change the order, you're going to be condoning wrong things and you're going to have a penalty for it. You see, what some of us don't understand is that godly men and women serving God faithfully fail sometimes in bringing up their children correctly. And it's just not Eli that had the issue with his children. So did Samuel. Samuel, the prophet, the seer. He too had children that did not obey God's word. We had Aaron. Aaron's two sons did wrong. They tried to burn the incense the incorrect way. So Eli failed, Samuel failed, Aaron failed, David failed too, because he did tell Solomon to walk with God. If you're walking with God, nothing could distract you. But he didn't listen. He didn't listen. And hear what? We fail too. We fail miserably too. When we have young children and we encourage them in the wrong thing, they're young and their minds are very impressionable. So they are like sponges. They sit down and they absorb everything that they hear, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. They listen. And when you least expect it, and you just give them a little squeeze and they start to let out what you didn't want them to let out, it's your fault. It's your fault. Why did you do what you did in front of them? Why did you say what you say in front of them? Did you think that someday they're going to start to say what they're not supposed to say? Say the right thing and they will say the right thing. What we have to think about, we are not perfect. We have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We as human beings are naturally flawed. We were born and shaped in sin. So none of us is righteous, not one. So, no matter how well we start out, sometimes it is hard for our family line to consistently obey God. But we need to pray. We need to pray for the leaders. We need to pray for all those who are in authority. So that when God speaks to them, they will be led by the Holy Spirit. And they in turn will lead the flock by the Holy Spirit. Because we by ourselves, we cannot manage to do what God requires of us. There are so many people and examples of people who started out well but finished badly, or whose children finished badly. But I want to tell you all tonight that there is one person that came into this world and he went through all the trials and all the tribulations like we did, yet he did not sin. At this point, he's at the right hand of God and he's interceding on our behalf. And if we really want to not be in a position to receive a penalty, why don't we serve him in spirit and in truth? Amen. Why don't we lift up our eyes unto the hills from whence cometh our help? Why don't we say, Lord, indeed do I put my trust, let me never be confounded. Why don't we say, Lord, I'm going to fret not myself against evildoers? Because there are evildoers out there. But we are serving a true and living God who is God and God alone. And when you serve him, he's going to make sure that even if you trip, that you're going to come back and stand strong. We serve God, and because we're serving God, we are going to go through trials and tribulations. He never said it was going to be easy. He never promised us a bed of roses. But he said, if you keep on trekking, and you keep on doing my will, and you keep on serving me, I will make your path straight. Yes, Lord. Because you know, in the end, we are all working for one prize. That eternal prize. And if we don't live it right, if we condone, how are we going to get that eternal prize? Because yes, in that day, the penalty was death. And in this time, Jesus came. Yes, he came, and now we are under grace. But how many of us take that grace for granted? Jesus said, you know, when we are in distress, we are supposed to call upon him. He never said that we are supposed to consistently do the wrong thing and, you know, just ask for forgiveness. No, we are not supposed to be willfully sinning. We are supposed to look to God in everything that we do. Because we want him to be on our side. Yes. We want, when we think of condoning, we think about the penalty. Every time we do something wrong or about to do something wrong, let us think about the penalty. What am I going to have to pay? What is it going to cost me for what I'm agreeing to? As I come down, I just want us to remember that we are not perfect. We are not perfect. I have my faults. Everybody have a fault. But let us look beyond the faults. Let us see the good in people. Let us see that godliness in Sister Melanie. Let us see that light shining in Minister Vanessa. Because if we only look at the bad, then we are condemning people wrongfully. Because God knows who we are. He made us. And if God could overlook our faults, so should he. Good night.
Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord.
Thank you, Jesus.